4-2. What happens if he hits? If a zombie, which this is, we say
Should
pull
have
back
had
down
a
the
four.
player.
Should have had a four.
Why didn't you do it?
G'day all, JP, Top Deck Commander. Welcome back to the show. Sorry I'm late, have had pneumonia. Highly recommend you ever get the opportunity, just say no. Horrendous, absolutely horrendous. But anyway, I'm better and we're just going to be a couple of weeks behind on the video. As promised before Christmas, Rosie Cotton of South Lane. You've got to say that with a Cornish accent. Rosie Cotton, South Lane. When she ETBs, create a food. Big deal. Whenever you create a token, put a +1/+1 counter on some other creature you control, other than her. It's as simple as that. It's all it does. This deck is very combo heavy. Rosie is part of that combo, but not all of the combos. Issues with playing the deck is good old draw. White, it's conditional draw, all that usual stuff. But the other positive side of that, unlike blue players that are ever going through their deck, flick, and boring everyone to death, white just does it or doesn't. There are other ways to win, create tokens, buff them up, Cathar's Crusade, all that business. So it's not, gee, it must be a combo to win, but it certainly is combo heavy. And without further ado, let's just get straight into it, guys. So first up, obviously, we're going straight into the mana. Good old Soul Ring, here's a standard. Wayfarer's Bauble, a must-use in white, and Marble Diamond. They're the first three, all pretty basic. Move on to the next ones. Ornithopter of Paradise. Yeah, I know, it taps for 1 mana of any colour. Bit of a flying blocker, chump blocker, but also with the ability to buff, it could come in handy later. Arcane Signet, embarrassed to have Arcane Signet in a one coloured deck, but really comes in untapped. How can you say no? And Pearl Medallion. These have become quite cheap lately. I've been picking them up left, right, and centre for every mono white deck I've got. The next 5 cards are all there because they also create tokens. First one is good old Keeper of the Accord. Keeps people honest turn after turn after turn. Oketra's Monument. It's only white creature spells that cost 1 less to cast, but when you do, you create a token. And Defiler of Faith. Whenever you cast a white permanent spell, create a token, soldier token. So they're just, mana reducers plus token makers. And the last two, Discerning Financier. So at the beginning of my upkeep, if an opponent controls more lands, I create a token, treasure token this time. And of course, Smothering Tithe. Don't we love that? So you can create a lot of tokens with that, and that means I'm creating a lot of +1/+1 counters. And now we move on to the all-important draw. These next 4 all rely on a creature ETBing. Rumour Gatherer, Takacia's Welcome, Mentor of the Meek, and Welcoming Vampire. They all want low power stuff, which is great for tokens, but most of this deck is low powered creatures anyway, so should be getting some draw from each of those. Next up, Palace Sentinels and ETBs. I become the Monarch. Then there's a brilliant card for this deck, Master of Ceremonies. Beginning on my upkeep, each opponent chooses money, friends, or secrets. If they choose money, me and them make a treasure token. If they choose friends, we both create a green and white citizen token. Or if we choose secrets, we both draw a card. I don't care, mate. Choose any of those. I don't care. That's brilliant in this deck. Secret Rendezvous, getting desperate. Me and target opponent each draw 3 cards. And Halo Fountain. I'm making creature tokens in this deck, so I can untap 2 creatures I control, tap creatures, draw a card. Also got that 5 white one right at the bottom there. 5 white tap, untap 15 tapped creatures. I do have a way of making an infinite number of creatures, so yeah, there could just be an emergency game winner. Next up, as with white, even more conditional draw. Dust Legion Duelist, when I put a 1/1 counter on him, and I can draw a card. Idol of Oblivion, I can draw a card if I've created a token this turn. That one's an optional. Endless Atlas would probably work just as well for 2, but I do like the fact I can sack it and create a bigger token. Mangara the Diplomat, bit of lifelink there. An Aerial Extortionist, kind of in the removal section, but also can draw a card. Very conditional, but it's got uses, so we'll use it. After that, there are 2 tutors. Moonblessed Cleric, one of my favourite cards. I love this. Would, of course, prefer an Enlightened tutor, but at $30 here in Australia, that's not going to happen. And also Oswald Fiddlebender. He's in there to be sacked out to go pick up an Altar of Dementia or a blasting station, something like that. Something that's going to help me with the combos. Simple as that. Of course, the best way to win a game is to make sure they don't win it first. So I've got some removal here. Swords to Plowshares, classic. Path to Exile. Yeah, it's starting to get old, that, and given the land up is questionable these days, but still a good card. Generous Gift and Stroke of Midnight. That should be enough to take care of most problems. I've also got a couple of wipes here, Ravnica at War and Damning Verdict. Obviously, these aren't hurting my guys, and they're quite cheap to cast. I did think of a Mass Calcified, but they're kind of half wipe. Fiend Hunter is also in there. I do have a way to flash, just one card that can flash, so I could use him twice. And Heliod's Intervention, love this card. Come up against an artifact or an enchantment deck, I can make unlimited mana, so I could just totally wipe someone out, or in fact, give myself unlimited life with it. Just a great card in this deck. It's going to work well with combos. A deck's not complete without some kind of protection. Blacksmith's Skill, target permanent gains hexproof and indestructible. I love the fact that it actually says permanent, so I can protect other things, my sack outlets, etc. Swiftfoot Boots, chuck it on the commander. Timely Ward, you can cast this like it's got flash, which also helps. Your temple is under attack, so all creatures I control can be indestructible, and or I could also draw 2 cards along with an opponent. Valorous Stance can destroy a creature, or it can give a creature indestructible. And I love this card, Reverent Mantra. You can toss a white card from your hand, and all creatures gain protection from the colour of your choice until end of turn. So that's great for attacking, gain protection from colour of my choice, get in there and kill someone. But it's also great for just a little bit of defence, a little bit of protection. Not sure whether it would work on a board wipe, and my rules aren't that good. Rules knowledge isn't that good. I got Daxos, Blessed by the Sun. This is just to gain some life. Once again, with my combos, I can also pump creatures in and out of the battlefield so I could gain a load of life. And of course, Knight Captain of Eos, ETBs, creates tokens, sacrifice one of those soldier tokens, prevent all combat damage. So it's a little bit more protection. And now into token creation. They're all going to be creature tokens. First up, Boss's Chauffeur. Love this card, and I've been looking for a deck to put him in, and I'm so pleased I've got him in this one. ETBs with a number of +1/+1 counters on it, equal to 1 plus the number of other creatures I control. So if I've got a load of tokens out there, he becomes as tall as they are wide. That's brilliant. And whenever another creature enters, he gets a +1/+1 counter. And when he dies, I create a number of tokens equal to the number of +1/+1 counters. That is just huge. Absolutely huge. Especially when you see that I've got a Cathar's Crusade in there later on in this segment. Next up, Twilight Drover. Whenever a creature token leaves play, I put a 1/1 counter on him, or I can do it with Rosie, you know how it goes. And then I can pay 3, remove a counter, and put a couple of creature tokens into play. That's just a perpetual token maker. That's awesome. Reverent Hoplite comes into the battlefield. I create more tokens. I do have a way to flicker. I think earlier I actually said flash. I did mean flicker. Adeline, Resplendent Cathar, brilliant card. Once again, that's more tokens getting made every time. And deploy to the front. 7 mana, quite expensive, but I do have the way to make that unlimited colourless mana at least, so what the heck. That guy can come in, especially if Boss's Chauffeur's been sacrificed, and I put a load of elf creature tokens in there. I could then play this, increase that, and I've got the Cathar's Crusade, it just gets sillier and sillier. Secure the Wastes, what a great card this is. Instant, mind you, it's an instant. Pay 1 and X and create X white warrior creature tokens. That'll spoil any attack. Pull the Copper Coats, we all know it, that's a good one. And White Sun's Zenith, what the heck? Let's make cat tokens, I don't care. Tokens, buddy, it's all about the tokens. And to amplify all that, Cathar's Crusade, brilliant. So you chuck out 6, 7 tokens, and they all come in with +6, +7 counter on them. Just brilliant. Little bit of evasion here, just for old school. Abzan Falconer. Each creature with a +1/+1 counter on it has flying. Fly over, snot someone big time. Much potential there, and we haven't even got into the cheesy bit and done all the combos yet. That lot alone can win games. All right, now it's time for the cheese. Let's get that cheese board out, and it is a huge one tonight. Lots of things going on. First up, I've got 3 sack outlets. Altar of Dementia, Ashnod's Altar, Blasting Station. Upon these, much will be sacrificed to win games. Going to start with the standard combo, the Karmic Guide, Revelark. Obviously, Karmic Guide ETBs, return creature card from your graveyard, which would be Revelark. And when Revelark gets sacrificed, leaves the battlefield, you can return up to 2 target creature cards with power 2 or less, which would be Karmic Guide. The two can just pump each other off and on the battlefield using one of these sack outlets. Obviously, that creates either infinite damage using the blasting station, infinite mill using the Altar of Dementia, or infinite mana using the Ashnod's Altar. With the infinite mana, we could cast any of those, the Secure the Wastes, the White Sun's Zenith, the Heliod's Intervention, make infinite tokens, make infinite life, kill infinite number of artifacts and enchantments, whatever. It just goes on and on. Those guys will just do it on their own. If, however, you have Rosie or Cathar's Crusade into the game, then we can start getting a little bit funky and a little bit more fun. We can bring Basri's Lieutenant in. Whenever it or another creature I control dies, if it had a 1/1 counter on it, create a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance. So I need a sack outlet. I've got that with my Ashnods and the altars and the blasting station, and I need something to sack. Okay, it doesn't matter what kind of creature, it could just be a token. With a +1/+1 counter on it, you sack it, Basri's creates another one. Because it's a token, Rosie will put a +1/+1 counter on it, or Cathar's Crusade will because it's a creature, and therefore you're just going to repeat, rinse and repeat. And then once again, infinite mill, infinite damage, infinite mana. What could you do with all this infinite mana? Oh, something else you could do with all that infinite mana would be play a Walking Ballista. Cast it for, well, infinite. Let's call it Russell's number. That's like the biggest number known to man, apparently. So just heaps upon heaps of +1/+1 counters, and then just start removing them in great big handfuls and destroying everybody using that last line on it. Basri's Lieutenant and any of those sack outlets, along with Rosie or Cathar's Crusade, you can make infinite number of tokens, sack them all off as you go. Got to be careful how you say that, don't you? And boom, you're just making infinite mill, infinite damage, whatever. How about Abdel Adrian, Gorion's Ward? When it ETBs, exile a creature until he leaves the battlefield. Create a 1/1 white soldier creature token this way. So you could actually do this also with Fiend Hunter. You use either of those, you exile Karmic Guide, sack them, Abdel or Fiend Hunter, do the usual stuff. Mill them out, make loads of mana, whatever. Abdel will actually make infinite tokens while making infinite mana. That's just awesome. They've exiled Karmic Guide until they leave the battlefield. Karmic Guide comes back, brings them back out the battlefield. Da da da. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Got that infinite mana, get out that Walking Ballista. Smash people left, right, and centre. Sun Titan and Fiend Hunter will also work same kind of way. Sun Titan ETBs are return that, the Fiend Hunter, from my graveyard to the battlefield, sack Fiend Hunter to one of the sack outlets. Once again, just creating infinites. All be good. Now, how about Daxos? That's the one that gains me a life if a creature enters the battlefield. Ashnod's Altar, Reverent Hoplite, and Revelark and Karmic Guide, plus one of the sack outlets. I could actually end up making infinite mana, tokens, and life if it was an Ashnod's Altar. Just crazy, crazy stuff, mate. Just getting bigger and bigger and uglier and uglier. Also in the deck here, I've got Angelic Sleuth, an animation module. Quite simply, I'm going to sack a token to one of those, to Ashnod's Altar, we'll call it, because that's the kind of lame one. That'll create a clue token, which means Rosie puts a +1/+1 counter on something. I can then pay one from the Ashnod's altar to create a servo token, which I could then sack to make more mana, to make more clues, to make more +1 counters. Round and round and round we go. Once again, Walking Ballista, infinite mana, whatever. If you actually had two creatures and you just kept sacking the one you create, you could keep putting the +1/+1 counters on the other creature and just make him mega huge, a massive beater. And make sure you've got a Rogue's Passage in your lands and in your charge, or that one of those cards that gives them protection from a colour of your choice. In your charge, knock someone out in a single turn. Imagine putting that on the boss's chauffeur. That was the one that made tokens equal to the amount of +1/+1 counters on it. Then sack that and make them thousands, tens of thousands of tokens, especially if, what's his name, Cathar's Crusade is out. That's tens of thousands of tokens with plus tens of thousands plus counters. It's all getting ridiculous. Also got Restoration Angel in there because that can fill in for Fiend Hunter on some of these combos. Not all of them, because it has struggles with the Karmic Guide because it is an angel. But he's in there as well. And he's the one that I could also use to bounce Reverent Hoplite, whatever. And the last card in this deck is Call for Unity. Beginning of my end step, if a permanent I controlled left the battlefield this turn, put a Unity counter on it. And creatures I control get +1/+1 for each Unity counter on Call for Unity. So I could sack away loads of creatures, create loads of tokens, loads more creatures, etc., etc., etc. And assuming I've gone and made infinite tokens or a huge number of tokens, Call for Unity is going to have a huge number of counters on it, which means they're going to be plus huge on my next turn when they attack. So he's just in there just because creatures are leaving the battlefield, and he's a great way to buff them up. And with that, I think I'm done. I'm absolutely spent. So that's Rosie Cotton of South Lane. Remember, you don't have to do the combo bits with this. The +1/+1 counters come out for any token, and I think that's the big takeaway for me. It was like that Jaheira, Friend of the Forest, that goes, tokens can tap for green. It's any token. Any token will put +1/+1 counters on your creatures. Doesn't have to be creature tokens. So this would work well in that new precon, the Deep Clue C one. You imagine an Academy manufacturer there popping out the treasure, the glue, the food. This one popping out 3 +1/+1 counters as well. Work well with that. Doesn't necessarily have to be creature tokens. Quite often when you read a card, also try to look for what's not written in the card. And what's not written in this card is creature token. It just says any token. Now, on to next month's deck. Special deck next month. A friend of mine's deck, Chad. Lovely guy, but when it comes to making decks, he is an evil genius. He literally giggles to himself, and you'd expect, dead bats and Eye of Newt hanging around his desk. This is his Urtek Remnant of Memnarch deck. It's got a load of Myr that tap for mana, which of course then untap at the beginning of combat. And then he can tap them all again for Wooburg to put +3/+3 on whichever ones are attacking. This thing comes out fast and just keeps coming at you. It's like herpes. You just can't get rid of it. It's a very, very good deck. And I think it's had one loss every time he's played it. I think he's only had the one loss with this. It's almost a guaranteed win these days. So, that'll be next month's deck. In the meantime, you remember, early to bed, early to rise, makes you regret your life decisions.